So you just got your first real raise, right? Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's 10, and you walk out of that meeting feeling incredible. You're finally making real money. You start doing the math in your head like, okay, that's an extra 400 bucks a month. I can finally get that nicer apartment. And then 6 months later, you're somehow magically more broke than you were before the raise. I watched this happen to someone who went from making $52,000 to $65,000 in 1 year, and 12 months later, they had less money in their savings account than when they were making 52. Not because they were being reckless, not because they went on some crazy spending spree, but because of three psychological traps that nobody warns you about. And the scary part is, most people don't even realize they've fallen into them until it's way too late. Hi, my name is Cade, and I spend way too much time analyzing why people who make more money somehow end up feeling more broke. If you're someone who's gotten a raise recently and can't figure out where all that extra money went, or you're about to get a raise and don't want to screw it up like most people do, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Here's the thing that drives me absolutely crazy about how we talk about money in this country. We act like the solution to financial problems is always make more money. Get a raise, get a promotion, get a side hustle, and look, I'm not saying more money is bad. Obviously, more money is good, but there's this weird phenomenon that happens when you get your first real raise, and it's something researchers have been studying for decades. It's called lifestyle inflation, but that term doesn't even begin to capture what actually happens, because when you hear lifestyle inflation, you think, oh, I'll just make sure I don't increase my spending. But that's not how it works. The traps are way more subtle than that. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is a software developer who got his first big raise at 26. He went from making 52 to 65,000. That's a $13,000 raise. That's real money. And Marcus did what everyone tells you to do. He promised himself he wouldn't let lifestyle inflation get him. He wasn't going to buy a fancy car, wasn't going to move to some expensive apartment. He was going to be smart about it. 6 months later, Marcus had $847 in his savings account. Before the raise, he had $2,300. He was making 25% more money and somehow had 63% less savings. When Marcus actually went through his expenses, here's what he found. He wasn't spending on anything crazy. No sports car, no expensive watch, nothing that screamed, I got a raise and lost my mind. But he had fallen into all three traps, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened so you don't make the same mistakes. Okay, so here's the first trap, and this one is sneaky. It's what I call the marginal cost illusion, and it's probably destroying your finances right now without you even knowing it. Here's how it works. Before Marcus got his raise, he had this mental math he did constantly. Every purchase was evaluated against his baseline. Like, I make $52,000 a year. Can I afford this? And that mental math created friction. It made him pause. It made him think twice. But after the raise, something shifted. Now, when he's looking at a purchase, his brain isn't comparing it to his total income anymore. It's comparing it to the extra money. So instead of thinking, can someone who makes $65,000 afford this? He's thinking, well, I have an extra $1,000 a month now. So what's another 50 bucks? Look, let me show you how this plays out in real life. Before the raise, Marcus had Spotify Premium for $10.99 a month. After the raise, he's scrolling through YouTube one day and sees an ad for YouTube Premium at $13.99 a month. Old Marcus would have thought, do I really need this? But new Marcus thinks, it's only 14 bucks and I'm making way more money now. Then it's Netflix. He had the basic plan for $6.99. But now he's like, you know what? I'm making good money. I can afford the 4K plan for $15.49. Then it's getting groceries delivered instead of going to the store. It's only a $5.99 delivery fee. Then it's upgrading his gym membership to the one with the sauna. It's only 20 bucks more. None of these feel like big decisions because they're all being compared to that extra $1,000 a month, not to his actual financial situation. And here's where it gets really interesting. The average person who gets a raise of 20% or more adds an average of 9 new subscription services or upgraded services within the first year, according to a study from the University of Chicago. 9 subscriptions. Marcus added 11. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Cade, but we're talking about small amounts here. How much damage can subscriptions really do? Here's the thing. Those 11 subscriptions and upgrades cost Marcus an extra $267 per month. Over a year, that's $3,204. Remember, his raise after taxes was roughly $800 per month. So he just spent 33% of his entire raise on things he didn't even want 6 months ago. But it's not really about the subscriptions. The subscriptions are just a symptom. The real problem is that Marcus's brain had fundamentally changed how it evaluated purchases. Everything felt cheaper relative to that extra money coming in. Trap number 2 is even more sneaky, and this is the one that gets people who think they're being smart about money. There's this idea in psychology called reference point adaptation. What it means is that your brain gets used to new situations really fast. Within about 8 weeks of getting a raise, your brain stops treating that new income as extra money and starts treating it as normal money, which sounds fine, right? Except here's what happens. Your identity shifts. You start thinking of yourself differently. Not on purpose, of course. You're not walking around saying, I'm a $65,000 a year person now. But in the background, your decisions start to change. Marcus said something I've heard from so many people. I just felt like I should be living differently. Not that he wanted to live differently, he felt like he should, because now he was making this amount, and people who make this amount do these things. So here's where this showed up for Marcus. Before the raise, he lived in a perfectly fine apartment for $1,100 a month. 30-minute commute, older building, but clean and safe with everything he needed. After the raise, he started feeling weird about it. He'd have coworkers over and feel embarrassed. Not because the apartment was bad, it was the same place he loved 6 months ago, but because he felt like someone making his salary should live somewhere nicer. So he moved. He found a place for $1,650 a month, nicer area, newer building, 20-minute commute, and here's the thing. The apartment was better for sure, but was it $550 per month better? Was it $6,600 per year better? Probably not, but he felt like that's where someone at his income level should live. Now, I want to be super clear about something here. I'm not saying you should never upgrade where you live. I'm not saying you should stay in a bad place forever, but there's a difference between I want something better because it truly helps my life, and I feel like I should have something better because of what I make now. And here's what most people don't realize. This identity shift shows up everywhere. The restaurants you choose, the bars you go to, the clothes you buy, the gifts you give. Everything gets bumped up a little, not because you decided to change anything, but because you're trying to match the person you think someone at your income level is supposed to be. For Marcus, this added up to about $900 more per month in new expenses. Not from one huge change, it came from a bunch of small upgrades that felt normal for someone making $65,000 instead of $52,000. Okay, here's trap number 3, and this is the one that really gets people because nobody warns you about it. When Marcus got that $13,000 raise, you know what his take-home increase actually was? It wasn't $13,000. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and his 401k contribution increasing proportionally. His actual take-home increase was $7,280 per year. That's about $607 per month, not the $1,000 he was expecting. But here's the thing. Marcus's brain didn't adjust his mental math. He was still thinking he had an extra $1,000 a month to work with. So when he was making all those small decisions, the subscriptions, the nicer apartment, the upgraded lifestyle, he was budgeting based on imaginary money. Now, here's what's really going on underneath all of this, and this is what nobody talks about. All 3 of these traps stem from the same psychological phenomenon called mental accounting. Your brain doesn't treat all money the same way. Money you've always had feels different from new money. Expected money feels different from unexpected money, and the way you mentally categorize money completely changes how you spend it. Before Marcus got his raise, all his money was in one mental bucket. Money I need to survive. Every dollar had a job, and spending money meant taking it away from something else. There was natural friction and natural caution. But after the raise, his brain created a new bucket. Extra money. And here's the thing about extra money. It doesn't feel real the same way. It feels more like monopoly money. It's easier to spend because you're not taking it away from your survival money, except it is real money. And by treating it differently, Marcus fell into all 3 traps at once. There's actually a fascinating study from Carnegie Mellon that tracked people who got raises over 20%. They found that within 2 years, 73% of people were spending more than 100% of their raise. Not 73% overspent. 73% spent more than the entire raise, which means they were actually worse off than before. This is where it gets really interesting. The researchers found that the bigger the raise, the worse people performed. People who got smaller raises like 5 to 10% actually managed their money better than people who got raises of 20% or more because smaller raises didn't trigger that same mental accounting shift. The money just blended into their existing budget. Okay, so how do you actually avoid these traps? Because look, I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad or to say you shouldn't get raises. Raises are good, more money is good, but you need a system to protect yourself from your own psychology. Here's what actually works, and I'm going to give you the exact framework that I've seen work in hundreds of these stories. Step 1. Calculate your actual take-home increase. Not your gross raise, but your actual take-home. After all taxes and deductions. Use a paycheck calculator. Get the real number. This is your reality, not your fantasy. Step 2. The 50-30-20 raise rule. Before you do anything else, decide what to do with that money. 50% goes directly to savings or investment. Yes, half. 30% is for intentional lifestyle improvements. 20% is buffer for taxes and unexpected increases. So if Marcus's real take-home increase was $607 per month, here's what should have happened. $304 to savings automatically. $182 for intentional lifestyle improvements. $121 buffer. Step 3, the 6-month freeze. This is the hardest part, but the most important. For 6 months after your raise, you change nothing. Not your apartment, not your subscriptions, not your regular spending, nothing. You let that 50% pile up in savings, you let the 20% buffer accumulate, and you sit on the 30% lifestyle money. Why 6 months? Because that's how long it takes for the psychological high of getting a raise to wear off. After 6 months, you can make rational decisions about what would actually improve your life versus what just feels like something someone at your income level should have. Step 4, the intentional upgrade list. During those 6 months, you keep a list. Every time you think, I should upgrade this or I should get that, you write it down with the cost and the reason why. Don't buy it, just write it down. After 6 months, you look at that list with fresh eyes. Usually about 70% of the things on that list don't matter anymore. And the remaining 30%, those are the real improvements. Those are worth spending money on. And here's the beautiful part. You have 6 months of that 30% lifestyle money saved up, so you can make those upgrades without it feeling painful. Look, I know this sounds restrictive. I know some of you are thinking, what's the point of making more money if I can't enjoy it? And I get that, I really do. But here's the reality. If you don't have a system, you will fall into these traps, not because you're dumb, not because you're bad with money, but because your brain is wired to fall into them. The people I've studied who have actually built wealth, not the people who look wealthy, but the people who are wealthy, they all have one thing in common. They protect themselves from their own psychology. They know their brain is going to try to trick them, so they set up systems that make the right decision automatic. Marcus eventually implemented this framework after realizing what happened. He couldn't undo the apartment lease, but he cut those 11 subscriptions down to 3. He put the 6-month freeze on any other changes. And in his update 12 months later, he had $14,200 in savings from the same raise that had originally left him with less money than he started with. The difference wasn't willpower. It wasn't discipline. It was just having a system that accounted for how his brain actually works instead of how he wished it worked. So here's what I want you to do. If you got a raise in the last year, or if you're about to get one, I want you to actually do the math right now. Pull out your phone, open a calculator, figure out your actual take-home increase after taxes, then apply that 50-30-20 rule. Decide right now, before you have time to spend it, what you're going to do with that money. And if you've already blown your raise, if you're in Marcus's position from 6 months ago, that's okay. You can't go back in time, but you can stop the bleeding. You can implement the 6-month freeze starting today. You can cancel the subscriptions you don't actually use. You can start redirecting that money into savings instead of lifestyle creep. Because here's the thing, your next raise is coming. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years. And when it does, you're going to have a choice. You can fall into the same traps everyone falls into, or you can have a system that protects you from yourself. I built a Notion template that tracks all of this. Your actual take home, the 50-30-20 split, the intentional upgrade list during your 6-month freeze, everything. It's in the description. It's designed specifically for people who just got a raise and don't want to screw it up. It takes like 3 minutes to set up, and it basically gives you the framework to implement the whole system yourself. But template or no template, just do something. Don't let this raise disappear like the last one did. Drop a comment and let me know. Have you fallen into any of these traps? Which one got you the hardest? I read every comment, and honestly, these stories help me understand what people are actually going through. And if this helped you avoid making a massive financial mistake, hit that subscribe button, because I make videos about this psychology of money stuff every week. Your future self, the one who actually has savings despite making more money, and will thank you for watching this.